All right, for this question, the big idea is the order of operations. And I'd like to talk to you about a strategy about bringing down your work. Okay, so for the order of operations, a lot of people remember this mnemonic device, PEMDAS. I've also heard, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So whether you remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally or PEMDAS, really what you're doing is that's a memory trick to remember the order of operations. In the order of operations, step 1 is parentheses, or any grouping symbol. Step 2 is exponents, like if you have 5 to the 3rd power. Now here's the part that's confusing for some people. Step 3 is not multiply. Step 3 is multiply and divide. So step 3 is two things together, multiply and divide. But what about if a problem has both multiplication and division, like in this problem that we're looking at right now? Well, if there's multiplication and division in the same problem, then you have to do them from left to right. Okay, so after step 3, multiply and divide, step 4 is not add. Step 4 is add and subtract. But what about if a problem has both adding and subtracting? Again, you've got to go left to right. Okay, so 4 steps in the order of operations: PEMDAS, parentheses first, exponents next, multiply and divide from left to right, and then last, add and subtract from left to right. Let's take a look at this specific problem. We've got 3 minus 16 divided by 2 times 5 times 3. All right, so are there any parentheses in this problem that are grouping anything? No. All right, are there any exponents that we need to worry about? No. Is there any multiplication and division? And yes, there's division, there's multiplication, there's multiplication. Now again, the trick is that some people think you've got to multiply and then divide, so they would probably pick that we have to multiply over here. But actually we have to multiply and divide at the same time from left to right. So as we're going from left to right, this is going to be the last step in the order of operations, but the division right there is going to be first. So for this specific question, all they wanted to know is what should we do first? The answer is we should do 16 divided by 2 first. But let's talk about, if we had to actually solve it, how do you bring your work down? So what you do is, instead of trying to keep this all straight in your brain, you bring it down step by step. So we know that 16 divided by 2 is 8. So then we bring everything down. We're going to bring down the 3. We're going to bring down the minus sign. This equals 8. And then we'll put times by 5 times by 3. Like that. All right, what should we do next? Well, we're not going to subtract because that's the last thing in the order of operations. We're still in the multiplication and division step where we're going from left to right, so we're going to do 8 times 5. All right, 8 times 5 is 40. So as you're bringing work down, you still bring down the 3 and the minus, but this equals 40, and then the times by 3. All right, what should we do now? Should we subtract or should we multiply? Well, multiplication and division comes before adding and subtracting, so we've got to do the multiply. So we've got to do 40 times 3, which was 120. So we bring down 3 minus 120. All right, now actually 3 minus 120 is going to be a negative number. Imagine, we did the number lines earlier. Imagine you're at 3 above 0. So this is 0. You're at 3 above 0. But you've got to go down 120. You're going to end up way below 0. So again, if you're at 3 above 0, and you go down 120, how far below 0 will you end up? The answer is 117, and so the answer to this question is negative 117. So again, in the question we had to answer for the test, it was just, what is the first step? The first step is 16 divided by 2. But if you had to actually get the answer to the whole problem, we want to practice this strategy of bringing your work down step by step like this. So it kind of looks like a triangle as the word comes down. It gets a little bit shorter and shorter every time until you're left with the answer. All right, so that's order of operations.